So we're going to be talking about a safety net for your cash flow. And really, this is all about the DIR fee apocalypse. And if you're like, wait a minute, not sure I know what the DIR fee apocalypse is. One, what rock have you been hiding other? Because I would love to live there every once in a while. But two, we're going to go through that. All right. First off, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, MatchRx. Without generous sponsors like this, we couldn't put on free content like this. If you want to buy or sell any overstock medication, MatchRx.com is your home. They'll help you do it legally, compliantly, so you don't get in trouble with your state board of pharmacy, and they'll help you recapture some extra cash, which is a great thing to do, what we're talking about. So welcome. If you don't know me, I am Dr. Lisa Faast. I am the founder of DiversifyRx. We also put on the Pharmacy Profit Summit, and we have Pharmacy Badass University for our members. I am on a mission to save independent pharmacy, which is why we're talking about cash flow, because cash flow right now, really, it's been the number one problem for pharmacy owners for many, many years now. But frankly, it has become an on fire number one problem for pharmacy owners. And we're going to be diving into that. So if you have any way you want to contact me, you can use any of this information on the screen to contact me. You can download a bunch of free resources from DiversifyRx.com. So never hesitate to reach out. All right. And then our special guest today is Carlos. And Carlos is the Capital Solutions Bancorp CEO. And here is all of his contact information. And we will put this up again at the end of the webinar. And before we continue, Carlos, can you go ahead and just give a brief introduction of yourself? That way, when we bring you back on, people are already familiar and have quote unquote met you.
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. So, yes, I'm the CEO of Capital Solutions Bancorp. We, in a nutshell, we help small and medium-sized businesses with working capital. That's all we do. We don't finance equipment or any other thing. It's working capital. One of the reasons is that it is a specialty, as Lisa was saying, and we've been doing it for 30 years. So we're very flexible and know a lot of options. And sometimes we very often refer you to other people that are more appropriate tool for your particular situation. So we'll be talking a little bit more in a little bit about the different options.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Carlos. And I will say that I have become fast and quick and long. Now it's been a long time friends with Carlos because of his, I guess you could just call it integrity. There's a lot of shark companies out there in the world of like short-term financing, and I wouldn't touch many of them with the 10-foot pole, but I will gladly hug Carlos. So before we dive into kind of some safety nets for your cash flow, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page of what we're talking about with cash flow. So number one, I want to talk about what is cash flow. And we're just going to go through these kind of quick. We definitely have lots of resources if you want to dive in deep to cash flow. Absolutely, we have some of those deeper resources. So you can think of cash flow as the leftover amount you have after the money you received and then the money you've paid out. It's kind of like what did you get to hold on to? That is cold hard cash. It is not profit. Profit doesn't always turn into cash. And if you had a cash only business where you sold a screw and you got a quarter for that screw, that would be the case. But however, we're in the pharmacy space and you have to wait on payment from PBMs, from third parties, employers. They may not pay you the whole amount because of these things called DIR fees. And so in our world, most definitely cash does not equal profit. It's also a timing issue. I'd like to call it, it's like the ebb and flow of money. It's money coming in and money coming out. And what is the timing of that? If I get $100 today and I have an $80 bill tomorrow, then I have a $20 net positive cash flow tomorrow. However, if I get an $80 today and I don't get my $100 bill till tomorrow, then I have a net negative $80 cash flow today. So cash flow is really dependent on the timing, which will lead to some of the recommendations that I have for you guys. It is not money that is promised. This is what really confuses a lot of times pharmacy owners, especially when they sit down to tax time and they're looking at financials and they're like, hey, my computer said I was supposed to make $1 million from PBMs this year, but I only collected 800,000. You know, why am I paying taxes on the $1 million or things like that? So cash flow takes away all of that, what I call fake money, money that you're owed and just hasn't come in yet. Cash flow is the cash, the actual money you can spend, money you can touch, not money that's promised to you that may or may not come in. Another way to go like this is it's the amount of money you have available to run your business, the amount of money you have available to pay your bills. And as Carlos used this phrase earlier, it's your working capital. So in the finance world, it's called really working capital. And that's the money you have available to pay your bills, which is what is going to be tight because of the DIR fee apocalypse. So if you're not familiar with the DIR fee changes, or maybe you're just confused, I would not be surprised if half of you are confused about what's happening, because I have seen from some really smart, high-level people, really bad information about what's happening in the DIR fees. And there's even a major wholesaler where their salespeople have been telling pharmacy owners really bad, really wrong information. So I'm just going to set the record straight on what is happening in 2024 and what I have coined the DIR fee apocalypse. So first off, DIR fees are not going away in 2024. Don't believe that. It's not true. They're still very much going to be there. For the first several months of 2024, you're going to be paying basically double DIR fees, because 2024 DIR fees are going to come out at the point of sale. So at the point of when you bill that claim, and you're going to have all those retro free fees from 2023. So it's going to be really, really tough the first 3 months, month 1, 2, and 3 of 2024, a little less rough in months 4, 5, and 6. A lot less rough in 7, 8, 9. You may actually even be through it by then. And then towards the end of 2024, we're going to be through it. We're going to be through the storm. So reimbursements will be much lower in 2024 because that DIR fee is taken out at the point of sale. And with that less amount of money, you'll also be paying 2023 fees. That's where it starts to hurt. It's affecting your cash flow. It's not affecting your profitability, because your profitability is not changing. It's just the timing of the cash and how much cash you have left over is definitely going to be a lot less right now. Once we get through this transition, it's not all doom and gloom. Once we get through this transition, it will actually be better for pharmacy owners. And that's because there's more transparency, because you know that DIR fee at the point of service when you're billing that claim. No longer are you thinking, hey, I'm doing pretty good on this prescription, I'm going to fill this every time. And instead, you found out later that it's negative. You're going to know at that point of sale that whether you're positive or negative. You're not going to be struck with surprise fees months later, and now something you thought was positive turned into big old fat negative. So it will be better after this transition. We just have to get through the transition, which is why we are talking about cash flow. And cash flow is going to be the most important area to focus on for your pharmacy right now and for the next 6 months. All right, really quick, before we get to Carlos and his safety net awesome program, I just want to go through some other quick cash flow tips. I will tell you that I hope you never need Carlos. And Carlos will say that too, because if you never need him, then we've got fantastic cash flowing pharmacies. However, I know that many of you will need him because you just haven't been implementing these changes. Some of our members in Pharmacy Badass University who've been with us for a while, they've been able to store up 100 or 200,000 or even 300,000. One of my members said that they have in savings to get through this. And that's because they've been slowly working on their cash flow, because I've been talking about the DIR fee apocalypse. Seems like forever, but really it's been about 18 months. And so I just want to go through some other things that you should be doing in your pharmacy, and then we'll give you the safety net in case you need it, because some of this stuff does take a little bit of time. But one, you want to reduce that inventory, get that inventory off your shelves, get that money back in your bank account. If you're having cash flow troubles, don't pay bills early. Now, you don't want to pay bills late, but you don't want to pay them early. So if something's due on the 1st, but you have a 10-day grace period, then pay it on the 10th, on the last day when it's technically like still good. Don't pay it on the 30th of the month before. There's no reason to get rid of your cash early if you're having cash flow issues. Cut expenses that are not making you money. Now may not be the time to sponsor, the little league baseball team or the soccer team. Let them know that, you know, come back to you in the fall of next year. You just want to make sure you're watching every single dollar. My big tip is maximize purchases from secondaries with 30 plus days dating. That will transform your pharmacy. Let me tell you, that is a whole other webinar talking about secondaries, but let me tell you, that is one of the best things that you can be doing for your pharmacy. Doesn't mean closing your primary account, doesn't mean not ordering from McKesson or Bergen or whomever. It just means moving a ton of your purchases to that secondary, and two things are going to happen. One, you're going to pay less for your drugs. Surprise, you're kind of getting screwed by the big guys. And number two, your cash flow is going to improve because they have 30 or 45 days dating, which again goes back to that cash flow. It's the timing of your money. So the longer you can keep your money, the better off your pharmacy is going to be. Here's another great tip. Use the Amex Plum Card. So the American Express Plum Card. It's a specific business card for business owners. Obviously, you got to qualify and all those kinds of things. But the great thing about the Plum Card is whatever you charge on, you have 60 days that you can leave it on your Amex card with no interest as long as you make your minimum monthly payment every month. And so that can help in a cash crunch if you can pay some of your bills with a credit card, if they accept credit cards, maybe your property tax bill or something like that. This can really help bridge and give you some of that short-term boost. Now you do gotta pay it off. You gotta be credit card smart. I don't recommend carrying a balance or doing anything like that, but it does give you 60 days to pay. And then lastly is collect more payments, which is really where we're going to shift, and we're going to start talking to Carlos on how he can help your pharmacy basically collect more payments. So now we've made it to the safety net of your cash flow. Now, again, I hope that you don't need this. And if you do need this, I cannot recommend anybody better than Carlos and his company. And here's the simple reason why. So many people in this area of banking, like I said, are predatory. They're sharks. You almost feel like you're going to a guy in a back alley, you know, renting some money, and then the other guy's coming with the bat, you know, looking at you. Carlos is not like that. They are the complete opposite of predatory. You can go to him, open, I'll say an account, open an account, get all set up with him. And if you never use him, they are not going to harass you. There is no requirement that you actually use any of the lines that you open with Carlos, which is amazing. That is virtually unheard of in the banking world. Usually they force you, like, hey, if you qualify for this, they kind of force you to use it. And that is just not the case with Carlos. And that is why he has my complete and ultimate support for what he does. He's already helped pharmacy owners that I have sent to him in the past. And we've worked together now, I don't know, close to over a year. Time flies. And so, Carlos, I turn it over to you now to kind of just talk about your program. And then I'll ask you some questions and some things like that people might go in. But if you have questions about anything that he talks about, remember, stick it in the Q&A chat and we will make sure to get to those. So Carlos, I turn it over to you now.
Great. Thank you, Lisa, so much. Before I go into my spiel, I am just so impressed, Lisa. All the bullet points that you made are directly out of let's call it an MBA program. They're outstanding and so accurate in very simple words. I commend you. It's really excellent. And the only one thing I would like to add is when you're talking cash flow, what really complicates the situation, the cash flow situation, are two things. One is inventory, and the other one is receivables. Think about it this way. If you would not have inventory and you would not have receivables, it's a cash business, as Lisa was saying, and it's the easiest business that you can think of. We have to have inventory and we have to have receivables. So that's where the difference between a profit and cash flow comes in. And I'd like to say that revenue is vanity. In other words, it helps us show off, we're selling so many millions or whatever. Profit is what lets you sleep at night, but it's really cash flow, as they say, cash flow is king. And it's really cash flow what determines the degree of health of your business. I've seen in my 30 years in the trade, I've seen so many more businesses that have gone out of business. They closed the doors, not because they were not profitable, they were profitable. They just could not turn the money in such a way that they had the flexibility to make payments when they came due.
Yep,
So,
and I'll pause you right there, Carlos. I have known, very closely many pharmacies that have recently closed in the past several months. Many of you on this webinar probably see them on LinkedIn and whatnot. And I have seen some of their financials, and you're absolutely right. Every single time, it is not a profitability issue. If you look at their P&L, they're making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in profit, and you're thinking, why in the world would you go out of business? But if you look at their cash flow statement, they are negative cash flow and have been negative cash flowing for many, many years. And that's why I always like to point out that cash flow is not profit and profit is not cash flow. And you're like, well, where does that cash go? It goes into your receivables, it goes into inventory, it goes into all these other areas that, you mentioned the MBA, that it's like business people understand. Like I had to learn those tough lessons. Like I remember that first year sitting with my accountant and asking that question, why am I paying on taxes if I didn't actually get any of this money? Like it blew my mind, and it was some really hard lessons.
that's right.
Absolutely want to reiterate that most pharmacies close because of cash flow and not because of any other issues. So anyways.
Yep, 100%. So just to underscore your bullet points, I want to stress that Lisa, you produce a wealth of information in your website, and I would like to point at that. Everybody should visit that, especially when it comes to KPI and tracking all this, because we can very easily say, well, you got to reduce inventory and so on, but who is tracking it? It would be to everybody's advantage here to track with a small chart. It's not difficult how fast your inventory is turning, how fast your receivables are turning, and give a prize to your staff and to yourself if you can improve the turn of that inventory. Analyze 80% of your inventory. Is it turning fast enough? What about those outlier, very expensive drugs? All your cash is glued, if you will, is stuck there.
I always say, tell everybody to imagine your inventory not as bottles sitting on the shelf, but as little stacks of cash.
Totally.
That's what your inventory is.
100%. So let's address the issue of the DIR fees. Double whammy. We have, as you mentioned, the 2023 fees that will still have to be paid early in 2024, plus the 2024 fees that now will be paid cash. This is one of the issues that you pointed out, Lisa, where suddenly one of our creditors, if you will, the DIR fees, we're not getting terms as we used to. We got to pay them cash. So from the cash flow point of view, it is not good. So if you want to know a very quick litmus test, if you will, of whether your pharmacy will have issues, I recommend that you look at your last, let's say, 3-4 bank statements. You look at your lowest balance throughout those 3 months, not your average, your lowest balance, and subtract 2 DIR months, let's call it. If you are underwater, meaning if that calculation is a negative number or uncomfortably low number, then this is an issue that you need to address now. If you have ample balance after that, then you're probably going to be good. The solutions that Lisa presented are very good solutions. I would implement and seriously look at all of them. However, they take time until they impact your cash flow. So what we're discussing here is having a safety net. In other words, Carlos, what happens if I cannot liquidate or move or reduce my inventory fast enough? I know I got, let's say, $50,000 there of excess inventory, but I cannot move it fast enough. What can I do? This is a little bit the situation where, we're floating down the river and we can see already the waterfall. It's not like only we're just hearing that it's far away in 2024. We're just a mere few weeks away. And what can we do? Because we know that it's happening very, very fast. So what we're doing with pharmacies is we provide um, um, very simply a working capital line whereby our clients can use as much or as little of the facility. And when I say a little, means nothing if you don't need it, and that's why safety net. And you only pay for what you use. So that's the benefit, knowing that you will be able to cash flow through this um, um, dip, let's say, it's a valley in your cash flow until things stabilize. How fast, when is it going to stabilize? It depends on so many variables. It depends on how healthy your cash flow is going into the situation. And secondly, how well your pharmacy is creating new working capital. Because remember, when the DIR fees go from being paid 30, 45, 60 days to cash, you need to recover that. In other words, you need more working capital, and your ability to produce new working capital is going to be key. So as Lisa says, absolutely reduce expenses. If you can, reduce your inventory so you got more cash available. And I would recommend give us a call. I would love to discuss with you the opportunity of opening an account, which again, if you don't use it, it doesn't cost you literally a dime, but it gives you the peace of mind that if you do need it, a phone call is all you need to do.
So what you offer, Carlos, is a working capital line of credit. And so at the beginning, when you said, you don't do loans for equipment or for other things, it truly is for that working capital, that money that you use to pay your bills. So for those of you that have said, hey, I've tried a line of credit before, or I've thought about getting a line of credit, but I've heard it's practically impossible for my bank, even though I've been banking there for 20 years and, I have my mortgage, my kids' mortgage, and everybody else, through them. So when you're talking about a line of credit for working capital, how easy is it to qualify? Because I think that's what most people say is like, great, sounds great, because that's what I want to use the money for, is I want to pay my bills. But how hard is it to qualify? Like what do they have to produce? Do they need to have a certain amount of money in the bank? Just what do you look at?
Yeah, what we're looking for to open an account is very simple. It's a one-page application form. We need to know the name of the company and who's the owner. So that's one thing. Secondly, we'd like to have an idea of how the receivables are turning. And for that, a collection report is the simplest way to see it. And that's really it. That's really all we need. How long does it take? It usually takes about 10 days. That's it. We are not really interested, or let me put it this way, we're not looking closely at the owner's credit. We're not, so bankruptcy and that kind of stuff is not something that scares us necessarily. We're relying mostly on the ability of the pharmacy to produce good claims, and it's based on the turn of the business. So it's not based on personal credit or that kind of stuff. I have to think. I don't really recall a pharmacy that was rejected for any particular reason or anything like that. It's not something that happens. The receivables are usually good. The amount that is invoiced is usually what is paid. So we don't have all those issues that other medical related businesses have.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you're really looking at the health of your pharmacy abilities to create revenue and collect that revenue. Now, in pharmacies, yes, there might be every once in a while, sometimes you find a claim's not paid or something like that. But for the most part, we get the
Minimal.
money that we bill. Yeah, we get the money that we bill. It just takes too long. It takes 45 days, 60 days, 90 days. And so really what you're looking at is, are you billing? Are you collecting what you're billing? And then that way we can come in and give you some of that money early in order for you to make up that working capital deficit.
Yeah,
Now,
just to use a little bit more interesting wording, you got receivables out there, and it is a credit. In other words, it's in your favor, but it's promised money, just to use your term. It is not cash, meaning that the pharmacy owner cannot turn around and use receivables to make payroll, pay rent, or pay a wholesaler or whatever. It's a piece of paper, but it doesn't serve the purpose of making payments with it. So what we bring to the table is the ability of the pharmacy owner to monetize those receivables on an as-needed basis. If they need it, great. We create cash out of receivables. If they don't need it, they can just wait and collect like they normally do.
all right, we've got some good questions coming in. How much money can we borrow, and do you require any collateral?
Very good question. So how much money can we borrow? As I mentioned, it is based on receivables. So to the extent that the pharmacy has receivables open, we can give money. Obviously, if the pharmacy has $100,000 in receivables, it doesn't make sense that they want $1 million. So it is in proportion to the receivables open. And if you say, Carlos, what's the percentage advance? That's a little bit of technical term, but what's the advance percentage? It's usually about 85%. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's to be specific, there's $100 in AR. We typically advance 85% on that 100.
Yes, and with other companies that do this, because there are certainly thousands of them, when they say, hey, you're eligible for 85% of your AR, they force you to take that money. And so you're paying interest, you're paying fees. And the thing that I love about Carlos and his company is you might be approved for, $85 of that 100, but if you only need 10, great, only take 10. And so that's the thing that I really love about what Carlos has put together. Now, another great question has come in is, what is that interest rate? Obviously, you don't loan money for free, but what is that interest rate? What are the fees? Can you just go into a little bit of what these cost?
Sure. Very important question. So several fees, and I want to also mention fees that are not charged. So the cost is roughly a couple of points. So 1 or 2%, let's call it 2%. That's roughly the cost that you should calculate that this will cost. And you say, okay, Carlos, that's very nice, but what else? Tell me all the nickel and dime fees. So we don't charge wire fees. There's a whole bunch of fees that banks typically charge that we don't charge. If you twist my arm and you insist, I might come up with some other fee, but we don't have any. So seriously, we just don't have any other fee. So those are the fees that you will see, and I urge you to calculate when you're running these numbers. Assume it's going to cost you a couple points. But here's the important thing. It is on an as-needed basis. So that doesn't mean that you're going to lose, 2% of your AR or anything like that. It's only if you need it. Secondly, and I'm going to share with you how to save in fees. and I'm going to speak against myself here for a second. And that is the following. Let's pretend that the receivable, the AR, is collected in 30 days, just to make numbers easy. And you're collecting in 30 days today, and I said that was roughly 2% or something like that. But let's pretend that you file your claim, but you don't need the money today. Let's say that you got vendors covered and payroll next week. So my suggestion is that you file your claim as soon as possible, so it is paid in 30 days, but you don't ask us for the money until you actually need it. Let's say in 2 weeks from today. Our fees start not the date of the claim, but rather the moment that we wire you the money. And it stops the moment that the claim is collected. That means that in this example, out of 30 days that the receivable is open, you only used our funds for half of that time, and therefore you pay proportionally lower.
Yep, absolutely. No, I think that made perfect sense. You're only, so of those points that you pay, you only pay
for what you use.
If you use the money and for how long you use the money. So that's the thing that I love about this, and it recycles. It goes over and over. So you might have a good month in the sense of you collect a lot of money, you're good, you don't need anything. Next month maybe you need something, and that kind of leads to Michael's question of what is an optimal turn for accounts receivables. I'll kind of give my answer from what just I see and whatnot. It obviously depends on your payer mix. Medicare has some prompt payment guidelines that, makes Medicare payments, even though we know sometimes the PBMs don't always comply with that. It depends if you have local plans or Medicaid state plans. But in general, usually most pharmacies are on a 30 to 45 day payment cycle. Some are a little bit better, some are a little bit worse, but I would say that's the average that I see out there, which is one of the reasons why I talk about using a wholesaler that has 30 or 45 day payment terms, because it matches better. And your cash flow, you're not running a negative cash flow pharmacy, where if you buy your products from the big guys that have a 10 or 2 week payment cycle, you're paying for those drugs before you ever have a chance to collect the money. So you're running a very cash negative pharmacy. And so that's what I've seen. I don't know if you've seen any difference, Carlos.
100%. And I want to stress how important this is. A reduction of, 10, 20, 30, $50,000 in inventory, for example, makes a huge difference, huge difference in your peace of mind and the cash flow of the business. I want to just mention something that is somehow related to this subject, but I think it's so important. I don't want to miss out on it. Yes, cash flow is important, but the most important thing, in my humble view, even though I'm involved in finance, is the fact that if your pharmacy is cash flowing, you as a owner will have the peace of mind and the ability to focus your time, your energy, and your skills in growing the business, taking care of the business, taking care of your patients, as opposed to wasting your time. And I underline that word, wasting your time juggling cash flow, because it sucks your time, your energy, your positive attitude, and it's to nobody's benefit. So I understand that this is not we're not into psychology and so on and so forth, but it does make a big difference what you focus your time on. And that I think if you project that long term, it makes a big difference to the health of your business.
If you are fighting for your life every day, you can't think about anything else.
That's right.
And that's when your employees start to suffer, your patient care starts to suffer, your future outlook for your pharmacy starts, because you're just trying to grasp for air every day. And if you create a little bit of cushion with that cash flow, it's like you enter that state where you're not fighting for your life, and then now your higher brain functions kick in. You can think about growth, you can think about marketing, you can think about taking care of your employees, you can think about taking care of your own kids, your own family. So I could not agree with that like 1,000 times more than that. And that's what frankly we do inside Pharmacy Badass University. I mean, you talked about inventory. People who take our inventory course, easily, I would say the average is probably around 50,000, but 40, 50, 60, 70,000 of excess inventory. And that's cash that's just sitting.
That is found money. That
Yes,
is
it
found
is.
money.
It is
And
found money. It's money you've already earned. It
that's
just
right.
got converted to a bottle on your shelf. And that's one of the reasons why I love MatchRx. You know, if you have excess inventory, you know, as part of the cleanup that like I teach you in our inventory classes, you know, you want to return what you can return to your wholesaler. But there becomes a point where they don't allow you to return. And so that's where somebody like MatchRx comes in, where you can compliantly be able to sell that inventory to another pharmacy because maybe they can use it. They get a little bit of discount. You get most of your cash back. And so that's why it's really important to manage that inventory. So we have a couple of more questions, Carlos. Is you mentioned the points, the interest rates. Is that a fixed thing when you sign up, or is it variable over time?
No, it's fixed. It's fixed. And one more thing I want to mention to you, because again, a lot of this is a question, Lisa, of options. And yes, if you have a bank line of credit, I would suggest that you use that first. I could mention friends and family, but that has a limit. One of the things that I do want to point out is that our facility does not have a fixed contract. What does that mean? We do not tie you up for, let's say, a year or 2 years, and then the fine print says early termination fees and that kind of stuff. Our philosophy is you use it so long as you need us, and at any point you can say, Carlos, I don't need your services anymore. The DIR thing is behind us. We were able to create more of our own working capital. And my answer is you can leave at any time, no questions asked, no penalties.
Yep.
Because I think that the fact that our clients can leave at any time is a comfort for them, that we will be on our toes to make sure that they're happy.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Yep. And there was a couple more questions about fees. Is there like early payment fees or late fees?
No, look, if you insist, I'll think about something, but the reality is no. That's it.
Yep. All right. So that's the gist of the safety net. And that's why I call it a safety net. I think every pharmacy owner, there's literally no downside for opening up a line with Carlos and just having this safety net there. You know, so if you fall off the cliff unexpectedly, you got something to catch you. Many of you have been preparing for a long time, and you may not need it. Some of you are like, crap, I thought this thing was like never going to come to fruition. I need some help. So, but that's why I like calling it the safety net, is because there's other things that you can do. There's other things you should be doing. I would not rely solely on this, but there's other things you should be doing. And that way you can improve your cash flow. But again, you have that safety net there in case something unexpected happens, which, you know, in our world, I almost expect it every day. So I think we've answered we've answered all the questions that have come in through the Q&A. If there's any others that you have, please send them in. If you're going to be watching the recording of this, because I know not everybody could join live, please feel free to send in questions or comments to myself, and then I will forward them to Carlos or you know, answer them in there. So here's Carlos's contact information, his phone number, his email. You can just book a call directly with him. I have a feeling he's going to book up quickly after this. There was over 250 of you registered. Those of you that are on live are obviously getting first dibs. So I would book a call as soon as you can. Otherwise, you know, I mean, he's only one guy, but you know, there are other people at your company, but I know you guys, now you know Carlos, you want to talk to Carlos. So already, I think I got all of the questions here. Let me clear them out just to make sure. And yep, that is all of there. Somebody asked for my contact information again. That is the next slide that I have. Surprise, surprise. So if you want to contact me, you can ask me any questions at drlisafaast.com. There's my email, our DiversifyRx website, links to all of our resources. So our podcast, our summit, all of our free resources. I'm a big believer in giving out a bunch of crap for free. And that's what I do. I love creating free content for pharmacy owners. Of course, I love our pharmacy owners that are a part of our membership and that attend our summit. But I honestly, I can't have everybody at the summit. We're limited in our number of tickets, you know? So I love helping pharmacy owners with a bunch of free resources. So you can always access those through the DiversifyRx website. And here's all of my contact information. And I will be sending out Carlos's contact information in an email as well. So in case, I don't know, you wrote down, got a typo or something, spill your drink, you know, on your notes. I will send out his contact information in an email. And then just one more time, thank you again for our sponsor, MatchRx. And if you have any overstock inventory, definitely consider selling it on there if you can't return it to your wholesaler. And you're also considering buying there. You can get some really good deals on there from other stuff that other people are trying to sell. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope to see you guys all next week on our our buffet of weight loss revenue options. And it looks like all of the questions are answered. So there's nothing else. So thank you so much, Carlos. Thank you for all you do for our wonderful pharmacy owners, because you really truly provide that safety net that keeps a lot of pharmacies from, you know, going out of business. So I really appreciate that. So, all right, I will let you go, and thanks for joining. Bye-bye.